Good morning. KETK News is your local election headquarters. I'm Isaac Ramirez.
And I'm Cynthia McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for joining us for our Election Day digital special. Well, U.S. House candidate Hank Gilbert is making headlines today unrelated to his campaign. He took to Twitter to claim Upshur County voting machines were down for hours this morning, and now voters are making their way to cast their ballots no problem. But you're looking at what Hank Gilbert said on Twitter, quoting Upshur County, in my district, not a single vote has been cast in the 2 hours the polls have been open because none of their voting machines are working. We reached out to the Upshur County Elections Office in the courthouse. They told us the machines are up and running, but declined to comment on whether the machines were down earlier today.
But they extended it till 8 o'clock. We're probably going to go to court or attempt to get it extended to at least 9 o'clock because most of these voters were cut out of 2 to 3 hours of their time that they should have had to vote. And, you know, it's only fair. Everyone should have the opportunity to vote.
Now, since this interview, Gilbert has provided me an update. He says any votes after 7 p.m. in Upshur County will be provisional.
And if you are heading to the polls today, make sure to bring a photo ID. That can be your driver's license, a Texas ID card, or even your passport. In the Texas U.S. Senate race, both candidates made their final pitch to voters traveling along the I-35 corridor. Republican incumbent John Cornyn held 3 events on a bus tour, while Democratic challenger M.J. Hagar traveled to a handful of major metropolitan cities. No matter who wins or loses, leaders in both of the state's major parties recognize the historic nature of this election cycle.
It's the biggest push that I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, we've got thousands of paid staffers and many more thousands of volunteers working right now all across the state of Texas.
Vote all the way from the White House down to the schoolhouse, because you do have some city council and also school board positions.
Another race to keep an eye on today, the battle to represent District 1. U.S. Representative Louis Gohmert is up against Democratic challenger Hank Gilbert that we just heard from. Veteran Congressman Louis Gohmert has never received less than 61% of the vote, serving for nearly 16 years now. Gilbert, a 13-year agriculture teacher, runs his own ranch and believes working in Washington is his next major hurdle. If elected, Gilbert says his first priority would be health care, a cause very close to his heart.
Like I said, we've had 4 of our rural hospitals closed. They're struggling every day to keep from having to lay people off.
Louis Gohmert says what
Gohmert, a lawyer and former judge in East Texas, is known for making headlines given the Speaker of Truth Award. He says this election is crucial.
This country is hanging in the balance. It's we're at the edge of either going full socialist or getting back on track so that we can have a self-governing country with 2-party system.
A longtime favorite and a newcomer. That's another race we'll be monitoring all day.
Here's a live look right now at the White House this afternoon. President Trump is expected to be here while waiting for election results.
This year's race has arguably become the most highly anticipated presidential election in modern history. Today, Americans decide if President Trump should keep his job or whether they're sending Joe Biden back to the Oval Office. Tracy Potts has the details from Delaware.
Polls are open in Connecticut, Ohio, Miami.
This is my first time voting, actually, so I'm actually really excited.
And Philadelphia. Joe Biden makes 2 stops there today after visiting Scranton, Pennsylvania, where he was born.
Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck.
This morning, he went to church. Last night, his final rally in Pittsburgh.
It's time for Donald Trump to pack his bags and go home.
Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, making one last bid for Michigan votes this morning after her final argument in Pennsylvania.
We cannot let up because it ain't over till it's over.
Michigan is at stake, a narrow Trump win in 2016. Vice President Pence, like the president, ignoring soaring coronavirus cases at his rally there last night.
But under President Donald Trump, we're going to defeat the virus, and the best is yet to come.
President Trump up early on Fox making predictions.
I think we're going to win Pennsylvania. We have very good numbers in Pennsylvania.
The first votes came in just after midnight. 2 tiny New Hampshire towns, one for Biden, one for Trump, plus 98 million early votes to be counted.
You might not have that number until really late tonight.
After months of battling it out on the campaign trail, the nation's most anticipated election now in the hands of American voters. Tracy Potts, NBC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Both presidential candidates made their closing arguments this week, and today they'll be huddled with their teams, waiting for those results to come in this evening. Joe Biden is expected to be in Delaware tonight with his team. President Trump is in Washington waiting for numbers to roll in once polls close. Both candidates pleading for their supporters to cast their ballots.
Imagine if the concept of losing to this guy. Oh, you better get out there and vote tomorrow. I will be so angry. I'll never come back to Michigan. I'll never come back. I'll tell Japan to bring all those plants the hell back.
We're still in the battle for the soul of America. Decency, honor, respect. Where has it gone with this president? Well, let me tell you something, folks. Tomorrow's the beginning of a new day.
This was our final.
President Trump ended his campaign blitz with a final rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, the same city where he capped off his 2016 run for the White House. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign ended where it all began in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Something to keep in mind today, we may not know the winner of the presidential race tonight, as many states are expected to count mail-in ballots. Election officials in Michigan and Pennsylvania say it could take until Friday for all their ballots to be counted. In North Carolina, ballots by mail are accepted until November 12th, as long as they were postmarked by Election Day. The Wisconsin governor announced they will try to count all votes tonight, but it may go on until tomorrow morning.
Certainly something making this election unique. Well, here at KETK and Fox 51 News, we are monitoring the presidential election as several states count their ballots throughout the day. Remember, for a full list of East Texas races and polling locations, you can find them on our website right on the homepage, KETK.com. And make sure you have our free mobile app. You can receive up-to-the-minute alerts no matter where you are and find out when key races are called, including the presidential race, right in the palm of your hand. We are your local election headquarters.
The weather has been looking extra nice this election day. It started off a bit chilly though, Cynthia.
Yeah, you looked a little brisk out there.
It was a little chilly out there when I was downtown Tyler. You could feel the wind going through your jacket.
It looks like things are getting better, Carson.
Yeah, things are definitely getting better. And I mean, it's not only us here in Texas, really across the entire country. We could not have asked for better weather across the country. Now, you can see across the Lone Star State a few high clouds, but that generally is not going to impact our weather here. Now, let's go a little further to the east because there are some crucial races in parts of Florida and Georgia. Again, nothing going on there either. Now, let's take you up to the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, a few clouds there on the northern tip of the glove, but really not much to deal with. Now, there is a little bit of snow falling in parts of New York, but that's about the only thing across the Northeast. Let's head out west to Arizona, another crucial state. Some showers across northern Arizona and southern Utah, but generally not much going on there. And as Isaac mentioned, it was pretty chilly this morning. We saw temperatures in the 30s and the 40s for the most part, but that really is not going to be the case for the rest of the day. Things are heating up. We do have temperatures generally in the 60s and 70s right now. We will warm to 70 here at the top of the next hour. But by 5 o'clock, if you are heading to the polls and you're able to get off work early, we're going to be in the middle to upper 70s. That's about around where we're going to top out. And then 63 at 7 for all those procrastinators who might be in line. I highly recommend you grab that jacket because some of those lines, like we saw this morning, will be out the door. So make sure you have a couple of extra layers just in case that does happen. But make sure you get out and vote. Isaac, Cynthia?
All righty, thank you very much, Carson. Uncertainty surrounding this year's election has led to Governor Abbott deploying the Texas National Guard today. Troops will not be sent to polling places. Members of the Guard will instead be used to protect buildings, monuments, and other places that could become targets if there is some uncertainty out there. It's a precautionary measure in the case of vandalism or violence. Houston's police chief explaining what he expects for this evening.
We don't foresee a need for the National Guard, but that's, if he does that, that's his prerogative as the governor. But we don't have any missions for them or anticipate any need for the National Guard to be here in Houston and in most of the cities across Texas.
It's still unclear exactly where Guard members might be stationed, but courthouses and other public venues will be likely locations. The governor says the decision where to send troops is on an as-needed basis.
Well, speaking of Houston, a federal judge in Harris County has rejected an effort to toss out more than 125,000 votes made at drive-through polling centers. The judge said the plaintiffs had no standing to bring a lawsuit, saying drive-through voting critics could have filed objections months earlier. The Texas Supreme Court rejected a similar challenge over the weekend.
Clearly, what I think we're doing today is saying to Harris County, your votes are legal, your birthright is protected, no one can challenge it.
The decision is expected to be appealed to the Fifth Circuit.
A North Texas organization is making sure everyone is able to cast their ballot. Rideshare to Vote was founded back in 2018 in the Dallas area. The organization works to make your trip to the polls easier. They call themselves a round-trip taxi ride. It's very similar to Uber or Lyft. They'll pick you up, take you to the polls, wait for you to vote, and then take you back to your final destination. And guess what? It's all free and ran by volunteers who are trained in election law and will answer any questions you may have. The founder says they see a mixed bag. It's mostly seniors, and now with their app, they're seeing more young voters.
Super important that everyone get their ballot cast. We live in a democracy, and that puts us in position where without everybody participating, it doesn't work as well as it should.
Passion of mine to reach out to people who are overlooked, forgotten, ignored in our society.
The organization says this is the most requests they've ever received, and that some volunteers are putting in 80-hour work weeks.
Wow. And that just goes to show that Texas is on track for record turnout after shattering early voting records. More than 9 million Texans cast their ballot during the early voting period, and 57% of registered voters have cast their ballot in person or by mail, surpassing the total number of votes in 2016. Here in East Texas, 85,225 people voted early in Smith County. In Gregg County, we're looking at 42,469 voters, and in Angelina County, 28,600 early voters cast their ballot.
It seems like all age groups are really energized for this election, especially those younger folks, as an East Texas teenager is voting for the very first time ever.
Very special for them. KTK's Frank Jefferson introduces us to Gavin Drury and shares why he's making his love for politics a major part of his 18th birthday celebration.
Under my leadership,
November 3rd, Election Day 2020.
My message is simple.
People across the country will cast their votes in this highly anticipated presidential race. And Lindale High School senior Gavin Drury,
sir, it means it can go to negative infinity.
Is turning 18.
I feel pretty lucky, honestly. It's nice that I actually get to vote instead of having to wait another 2 years, whereas a lot of my friends are going to have to wait a while.
If you take a look around his room, you could tell Gavin loves history, his country, and politics. Gavin says he's considered himself blessed to be able to vote.
I just love having a representation in our government. I know there's a lot of places in this world where they don't have that luxury and they don't get the opportunity to go out and vote like we do.
Gavin plans on voting here at the Kinsey Community Center, the only polling place in Lindale, where he'll turn the corner from childhood to adulthood and make his dreams a reality and deepen his love for politics.
I was probably 13 or 14 when I first started looking at politics. I always kind of had a dream of eventually running for presidency, and so ever since then I'd always, obviously followed the current presidency and just see how they were doing.
Despite aspiring to one day become the leader of the free world, Gavin is still a normal teenager. He's involved in drumline at school and loves riding the trails on his four-wheeler any chance he gets. Gavin says he's embracing a leadership role when it comes to encouraging young people to vote.
Spreading awareness and allowing people to see that, hey, more people are voting, maybe I should vote. And so getting them to vote is just as important.
Spending your 18th birthday at the polls might not be for everyone, but for Gavin, there's no place he'd rather be. Frank Jefferson, KETK News.
When Gavin goes to vote today, we will be there with him, so be sure to catch our story tonight on KETK News.
And after tonight, the city of Tyler will have a new mayor for the first time in 6 years. It's one of our local races being watched very closely. Don Warren and Joel Rando are on the ticket. This race was supposed to be held in May, but was pushed back due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
There is a big decision on the ballot for two small East Texas towns. Mount Enterprise residents are deciding if they want beer and wine sold in their city limits. Appleby residents are voting to approve beer, wine, and liquor sales. The mayor of Appleby says the town could benefit from sales tax and possibly new businesses. The proposition was added to the ballot after a petition was started by a new business owner.
The population of Appleby is 474. Out of the 474, with those that were registered to vote, we needed somewhere around 80 signatures, which they got the 80 and more.
A similar proposition previously failed in Appleby about 4 years ago.
Down in Angelina County, a possible bond for Huntington ISD is on the ballot. The school district is asking for more than $19 million to distribute among the district's 5 campuses. Plans include a new field house for the Red Devils and safety upgrades such as new cameras, entrances, and front and doors.
Parents and residents in Troup ISD have a choice to make today. They have the option to issue a more than $22 million bond to their schools. The money, though, will come at a cost. An increase in property taxes, or about $300 more for a $100,000 home every year. Now, if approved, this means upgrades for the elementary, middle, and high school campuses. Troup ISD could see a new school building, a new gym, and a new career and technology facility.
It's never too early to start participating in the election process. That's why you might see some younger faces when you go to cast your ballot today.
That's right, Cynthia. Shirley McGurl joins us from Connecticut, where students are expected to play an important role in the voting process this year.
Getting the voting sticker, even though I was only 10 years old at the time.
These high school seniors have a limited history with voting.
I'm also 17.
Neither are old enough to cast a ballot.
Not yet.
But this election season, their age is not limiting their access to the voting process. Both will be working their town's polls November 3rd.
With COVID, it's been hard because I know there's not as many people that are able to work the polls.
The town of Stonington usually sees older adult poll workers.
Because they're the ones that are up at 5 a.m. and have the time to stay until 8 p.m.
Yeah. With many of the regular volunteers being at a higher risk for contracting a serious case of COVID-19, the town's registrars needed help.
We had a problem trying to get workers that were on the younger side that would be able to come in and take their place.
Enter high school students.
I think that it's important to see how the election process works
and inform yourself before you're even able to vote.
20 students worked the polls during the primary election. 20 more will be working the general.
I just think it's so important for them to see how the process works and to see how people are expressing their voice.
The Secretary of the State's office is expecting more young people to work the polls statewide than ever before. In Stonington, the students will play a critical role, sanitizing all equipment between uses.
It's so important that we have accessible and safe, sanitized polling stations.
While they look forward to learning from this process, they hope people in their community will take away a message as well.
Vote.
That was Siobhan McGurl reporting.
KETK News will be monitoring the presidential election as several states count ballots throughout the day. Remember, for a list of East Texas races and polling locations, you can find them on our website, KETK.com, and make sure to download that free KETK mobile app. You can receive alerts and find out when the presidential race is called right in the palm of your hand. Remember, KETK News is your local election headquarters.
Thank you for watching this digital election special. I'm Cynthia McLaughlin.
And I'm Isaac Ramirez. Keep your eye on KETK because we're bringing you election coverage all day and night and even in the morning. Stay tuned. Have a good one.